We're going to start off with the show reel that we're going to show, and then we're going to continue with whatever she thinks that we should be doing here on the stage. Okay.
Perfect.
Hi.
Hi.
You want to have some fun?
Shall we?
Cue the music.
Right, it's on.
Fantastico.
Please, please.
Can you shoot?
If I have to.
We have an unexplained death.
This already feels dangerous.
Whoa! Yes!
That was mad.
So now it's time for the fun part.
Got no Google Maps, got no mum.
That just changed our lives.
Wow.
The show is everything.
She told me I never wanted this.
Every human being has a right to justice.
Really beautiful, actually.
We discovered a web that just keeps getting wider and wider.
We had one opportunity. This wasn't going to come around again.
Here he is, look!
Bugaration.
That is awesome!
I want everything.
Together, we could do something extraordinary. When did our lives stop being worth the same?
Wow, sweeten it.
Just run.
That's my grandmother.
Oh, Jesus, it's got red on it.
She was lovely.
Really?
Hi, Ashley!
Hi, Joel!
It's the best feeling ever watching people fall in love.
That's the reason why we have this show, to be able to change lives.
Not so bad, is it?
I've had the best time.
Me too.
Wow. Yes, I think it does deserve an applause. Well, whoever did this, please congratulate
good job
him
to
or
on the
her or
marketing
them. They did an amazing show reel. Now, I'm going to go off script just for a second, because I saw what we saw is an amazing storytelling. And when we started off with NEM 10 years ago, one of the first panels was, is content still the king? And we're not asking that question anymore, especially after we see this. Is it harder to tell a story today in comparison to before? Or because of the audience, it has changed dramatically?
Well, first of all, I should say it's actually fabulous to be back here in NEM. And so it's probably my favourite market, not that I'm allowed to say that, but anyway, it is. So I think, to answer your question, I think it's easier to find more outlets to tell your story on. I think, there is still a huge demand for content. There are lots of different platforms wanting content. I think, some of that content feels quite generic, and I think some of it, feels quite the same and quite sort of repetitive. But I would think, for me, there's still lots of opportunities for great writers to tell great stories. Some of the shows that we saw there, particularly It's a Sin, which was about the AIDS crisis and the coming of the AIDS crisis. That's quite a controversial story. It's told by a great writer. It's a story that perhaps, 10, 15 years ago, you might not have seen on mainstream television in the UK. I don't think you would have seen it internationally as widely as we did end up seeing it. So I think, there's still a place for great storytelling, and there are more platforms to to tell those stories on. Whether anyone can, increasingly fund them and pay for them is a different story.
Exactly.
But we'll come on to that.
That's a different story. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
I mean, but your portfolio, from what we've seen, so many different things, different formats that when you see the showreel, some of them don't have anything in common.
No. I mean, we work with producers. So we're owned by the All3Media group, which is, Discovery International is owned by them, which is currently owned by Discovery and Liberty Global. So we have 46 producers within the group, and we have a first look deal with all of those different production companies. That they produce a really wide range of content. Some do scripted, shows like Midsummer Murders, Van der Valk. Others do entertainment. So for people in the room will probably know that we've had the huge hit with Traitors, our originally Dutch format, which was one our Dutch company produced. And some of them do factual and natural history. So we bought Silverback 2 years ago, and they do the big David Attenborough natural history shows. So it is a really wide range of content, and we also work with third-party producers outside our group. And we tend to be a bit more selective around that content, so pick content that we feel complements the shows that are coming through from our in-house production or that we think are going to travel widely. So there are a few things we don't do. We don't do kids shows, we don't do music, we don't tend to do live events. But outside of that, in the very broad areas of scripted, non-scripted, and entertainment, so it's a really diverse catalogue.
But you have to, in all of those formats, you have to find a way to connect with your audience. I mean, emotion is what drives us, all of us. If it's sports, we like to feel, we don't like to be disappointed. We like to imagine that our team is going to win, our country is going to win, if we're talking about World Cup or whatever, and whatever sports. If we're talking about drama, we want to be touched. If we want to laugh, if it's comedy, we saw a different range of, but it sounds very easy, like, you just have to find a way to connect to your audience. But I think it's the most difficult ingredient you have to find, the most difficult formula.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think, again, I'm coming back to Traitors. Why was it such a success? I think it's now in 25 current countries around the world, which is great because it's only 18 months, 2 years old. But it was because it did something new. It was a new form of kind of adventure reality show. And it was it was very identifiable. So, we could all identify, I think probably most people that are in this room have seen it, but you can all identify with kind of having to keep a secret from your friend.
And fail at it.
And fail at it or not fail at it. Or having to sort of betray your friend. What does it take to make you betray them? How does it feel to lie to someone? So I think audiences internationally still respond to things where, all right, I'm not going to be in a house playing a game about being a traitor, but I can absolutely identify with the people who are in there. And that type of storytelling or game playing, I think, makes incredibly powerful television. And not all of it does that, but a lot of the really successful shows, as you say, it's about people finding a way to respond to them and being able to access some kind of emotional entry point that is relevant to their own lives.
You're a CEO of All3Media International, but this is your second gig at the company.
It is, yeah.
You were there
spotted.
in the past, then she left, and then she realized that she cannot live without All3Media International.
No, it's true. It's the only place that would have me back.
No.
Yeah, actually, I should say, for anyone, I actually started out as a kind of sort of junior salesperson for one of the ITV companies back in the day, and my first territory to sell to was Scandinavia and Eastern and Central Europe. So I spent a lot of time going around Poland, Hungary, the Czech Republic with my, in those days, kind of bag of VHS and sheaf of publicity material. For me, this Central and Eastern Europe and it's still got a very sort of special place in my heart. I joined All3Media the first time because there was a change in the terms of trade in the UK that allowed producers to keep their own rights and sell them, rather than the rights being withheld by broadcasters. So that was a big opportunity for independent production companies and independent distributors to set up, and All3 was a new group. It was formed by a group of ex-ITV executives, and they asked me to go in and run the production business. So fast, that was my first stint, so I did that for a bit. Then, for a variety of reasons, I actually decided that I wanted to get some production experience, and so I set up I didn't set it up. There was a scripted production company launching in London, which was set up by an ex-person from HBO, and he asked me to go and run that, and I thought, brilliant, that would be really interesting, so I went and did that for 18 months. And then I realised that reading the 7th draft of a script really wasn't my thing, and selling shows and dealing with people was. So I came back to All3.
And haven't regretted it.
I haven't regretted it.
And that's how you got here in Dubrovnik, back in Dubrovnik. But you mentioned VHS. We all kind of remember VHS. And how has your job changed in the last decade? I mean, we've got from VHS to what we do today. What is the most challenging part today when talking about international sales?
Yeah, I think on the international sale, I mean, a lot of what I do now, of course, we have a brilliant sales team selling all of our shows internationally. But actually, a lot of what I think a lot of distributors do now is work out how to help finance and fund programs, because when I started, shows were financed primarily by one broadcaster, which was usually your commissioning broadcaster. So the BBC would probably put in 95% of a budget, for example. Perhaps there was a little top-up required from a distributor. Now it's much more like a kind of 50-50 model. Some of that can be filled with a tax credit, but the balance is from a distribution company. So I spend quite a lot of my time working with producers, working out how to get shows financed, and bringing in co-production partners or taking the risk ourselves. So that's much more complicated. The other thing that is quite challenging, and again, I'm sure people here will be experiencing that, is that, inflation and budgets are going up everywhere. And one of the perhaps unintended consequences of people like Netflix entering the market is that they've pushed up the prices of local production. So and the money that people are paying internationally has stayed pretty much the same. So it's a more challenging financial model in terms of being able to, afford crew and cast and all of those things. And I think, thirdly, the business went from being, a sales business where you got your show fully funded and you sold it and that was producer's profit, to being, something where you're maximizing all sorts of different rights over quite a long period of time, in the kind of format space, in the tape space, and in the kind of AVOD and fast space, just to sort of make sure that you're maximizing the rights across a long period of time. So it's become a much more complicated sort of rights management model, as well as a more complicated funding model.
So do you see a solution to those to these problems?
These are opportunities for people. There's opportunities to make more money. It was probably one deal to HRT Croatia, and that would be, your life cycle in this territory of your program. Now there's probably 3 or 4 windows that you can do on shows. Programs have a longer life cycle because they've got a secondary market. So it's an opportunity. It's just a more complicated business to manage. Equally, if you're a producer, as we said at the beginning, there are more opportunities to find a home for your shows, but you probably need to be a lot more networked, which is why these markets are such a great opportunity in terms of bringing in some of your funding partners.
Long story short, your job got a bit more complicated.
Yeah, sorry, I should have just said that.
Going from VHS to today.
Yeah.
Then it was the tapes, now it's the money, so yeah.
Yeah.
When we did a preparation for this panel, we covered a lot of topics, one of which was social issues that are covered today more and more.
Yeah.
And when it comes to what you told me, when it comes to specifically UK, for example, as well as the United States, but let's focus on the UK, you have certain, let's call them rules, that you have to follow, which is not the situation here. We're talking about diversity, we're talking about...
Yeah, I mean, that has been, I think the industry, has had to take a real look at itself in terms of the influence that it has on audiences, and probably a number of big areas that broadcasters have really concentrated on. One is diversity, both on screen and behind the camera. The BBC have guidelines that they expect you to adhere to on that. Channel 4 actually have regulated for it. They say it's a condition of commissioning. And the other is sustainability. We had a really interesting talk at All3 from the guy at All3 who is in charge of all of our sustainability and sort of green issues. And they'd done a survey and realised that the word picnic, which is not a particularly common word, was used more often than than green or recycling or any of those words in drama. So, there's been a big push to how we can sort of nudge people through drama into some behaviours that are better for the environment. All production in the UK now has to comply with something called Albert, which is to make sure that the production has been made under sustainable working practices. So, yes, I mean, that's been a really big issue in the UK. There's been a lot of change in the kind of commissioning structures, and I'm sure it probably is going to get rolled out.
Probably it will,
well.
just a matter of time. If it's going to be next year, or not very likely, but or in the next 10 years. Who knows what the two of us will be talking about on stage in 10 years, them 20. But then at the same time, we saw what happened with Netflix and the documentary, or was it? It wasn't really that documentary with the Cleopatra. What happened? Oh, the actress was black, so we had that. I mean, you have. It's going to be very interesting to see what will be happening with that. We mentioned storytelling before when we saw your show reel, and you said that you think that we still have enough of great stories to tell, a lot of great ideas, and yet at the same time, in the last couple of years, we are seeing a lot of spin-offs.
Yes, it's true. I think that has been a big trend, and I think, again, anyone that was in the LA screenings or would see a lot of the streamers are going back to successful IP.
Why?
I think probably because in a very competitive market, there is a security there around a show or a franchise that has
But it's
worked.
not always a safe bet.
It's not always a safe bet, and I guess you have a fan base that can be very upset by, a sequel or a
It's
spin-off.
not as good as the original.
No, all of that. But certainly, shows like, I think Billions has got trillions and millions and other spin-offs. You've seen the new Harry Potter franchise announced.
Sex and the City,
Sex
with
and the
HBO,
City, all those things. So I think it's probably to do with the fact that people know those shows have got an audience already, or executives know that they have got an audience, and they think that audience is going to come back to sample the next one. So yes, to your point, I think you're right. There's still the opportunity to tell stories. Perhaps some of the American studios are matching that with some caution around something completely new and reverting to some of the things that they know have had a fantastic legacy.
Mm-hmm. Is there a show that you liked to watch, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, and now watching the spin-off? I'm guessing you're going to say no.
Not that I can think of. I'm going to be really interested to see what the Harry Potter series looks like, and that's a couple of years off. Yeah, I think it'd be really interesting to see that. I haven't watched the Sex and the City one yet. Have you watched it?
The original?
No, the, what's it called?
I have.
I'm Just Like That.
No, I have, and I was really preparing myself to be very disappointed, but it was, I don't know if it's because I thought it was going to be terrible. I love it.
Yeah, I
love it because they are showing their gray hairs. They're not acting like they're 25 anymore.
It's my show.
Yes, and they have some real life struggles when it comes to being, 50 plus. So, and it's all coming for us. So yeah, I love it. So if you want to watch it, I think you're going to love it too. So when it comes to All3Media, look, we're already in red. When it comes to All3Media, what's next coming up your alley?
More great content, hopefully. I mean, we've got some fabulous shows, planned over the next year. We're launching, I think we've got about 11 fast channels in the market at the moment. That's been a big growth area for us, and we're launching another 6 over the next 3 or 4 months. So that's a big area. It takes us into being a kind of scheduler and a programmer as well as a sales company. So that's an exciting new area for us. More new formats. I think, the Traitors has been huge. We're going to keep rolling that out. Traitors Cloaks, Traitors Games, Traitors Fortnite, online things. So more and more of that. And we have the next show from IDTV, who invented the Traitors, called The Unknown, which we're just launching at the moment. So more great content.
So, but when it comes to, you have offices around the world.
Yeah.
How different is it to operate in different parts of the world? Is it?
No, I mean, you have to be a bit more joined up. It's one of the great upsides, I think, of the only upsides in business of the pandemic was that we all got much more used to talking to our colleagues on Teams and on Zoom, and I think they feel much more connected. We have to be a bit more a bit more conscious of how we schedule things, but to have colleagues working in a local time zone, in a local country, particularly in Asia and in the US, I think, if you're really going to work with those markets and grow your business in those markets, you need to be there. So.
One final question, and I'm risking everything because our time has run out. You seem like you love what you do. Do you enjoy your job?
I think we're all really lucky. I mean, we all work in a fabulous industry. Nice people. Everyone has got a common interest in creativity and television, and I feel lucky every day. So, and I feel even luckier now that the sun is shining in Dubrovnik. So I think we all should be really enjoy it.
I mean, the sun is out and your job on stage is done.
Oh, excellent.
So those are 2 best things that could have happened to you today. Please give it up for Louise Pedersen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
and
very
hopefully
much.
you will come back to Dubrovnik.
I hope so.